Welcome to another edition of What Barrie's Talking About from Barrie 360. I'm Dan Blakely. On this week's program, the end of winter, the start of spring, we look back at what we've been through and ahead to what may be in store. Barrie Food Bank has put out another call for help as food prices continue to rise, and it's not just those without a paycheck knocking on the door anymore. What's going on in Muskoka? Lots, apparently. District Chair Jeff Lehman stopped by to bring us up to speed. Rock 95's Macaulay has been getting his marching orders again this month from people willing to pay for his services. His annual Chores for Charity winding down, but there are still a few spots left. The Barrie Film Festival's Real Stories returns for a 22nd edition, a thought-provoking festival about fascinating people and places, Elvis among them. And Soup's on, or will be on the 29th, a chance to slurp and support the Alzheimer's Society of Simcoe County. We get the conversation started after this. It has been a winter, but it's almost over, on the calendar anyway. Spring checks in Friday morning, March 20th. We are joined by Environment Canada climatologist David Phillips. David, you and I have talked often about the winter of our youth. Did we come close to that this winter?
Dan, I think we did. I kept hearing people say, boy, this is an old-fashioned kind of a winter. It's a classic winter. It reminded me of the 70s and the fact that we got, for so many winters in that decade, it was cold and it was snowy. And, well, we get a few breaks here and there, but generally it came out of that. When you plot all those numbers, it clearly shows you that the 70s was clearly winter-like. And then all of a sudden things started warming up and we got more sort of into the milder kind of a mixture of different types of winters. But this one was clearly old-fashioned. It had all elements of it. I mean, it started on a kind of a warm note. At least we ended summer and into fall on a very warm note. It was, for Canada, the warmest fall. That would be September, October, November in about 80 years. In Ontario, was maybe, I think, was the fourth warmest in 80 years. So we had temperatures in 30 degrees in October in Barrie. And so, I mean, we almost went from sweat to sleigh, because then into November we started getting snow around or just before Remembrance Day, about the 9th, we got some snow. It melted, but then we started getting snow consistently towards the end of November. And my gosh, the personality of the winter, that is November, December, January, February, and we're all below normal temperatures. And, Dan, I've not seen that in a long period of time. Typically, when you look at the 4 months, November through to February, or when you add March, you see maybe 1 or 2 months colder, 2 months warmer, and maybe normal. So a big switch back and forth. But when you look at it, this year was every one of those months. Now, March, not finished March yet, but if we add that to the winter column, well, I mean, right now it's showing just a little bit warmer than normal, because we've had some temperatures that got up to, I think we've been up to 20 degrees or 17 degrees in Barrie in March. So my sense is, with the kind of what I see for the next couple of weeks, we'll probably end up with March being either normal or slightly below normal. So when you look at it, I mean, my gosh, 5 months with below normal, and every one of those months has been snowier than normal. It's not just the snow came in like last year in February, but was less so in December and January. Every one of those months, November right through to March, has been more snow than normal. We did get a few kind of melting days where the temperature got up to, I think it was 8 degrees, and then it got down into the minus 20s. I think in January we also got up to almost minus 12 or 13, and then we get down to the 20s. But really, it has been what we call in the weather circles a weather whiplash. It's just that you get a teaser of say of an unseasonably mild, and then you're back into the deep freeze. And but the deep freeze has really dominated. We haven't seen too many melting days, a lot of freezing days, and boy, when we look at the numbers, this winter will go down as clearly as you said at the beginning. Just sort of weather of our youth. I mean, it's been colder, it's been snowier. All those elements, the look and the feel of winter, have been truly there in abundance in this particular winter. So I would think that even people who love winter are saying, okay, we've had enough. We've had a good share of it. We've been doing the recreation things and that, looking at the white surfaces and the ice fishing and the skiing and the snowmobiling. Hey, they've had a great year this year, and where other years they've just been sitting on the sidelines at times. So my sense is we've had the good Canadian winter. We are still the second coldest country in the world and the snowiest, and I think we proved it this particular past season.
I think the word that comes to mind for me, David, is relentless, particularly through December, where it seemed every day there was new snow to shovel.
Yeah, I didn't count the number of days with snow, but I certainly know the amounts. I can tell you that we've had with snow this early this week. We probably are up to 400 centimeters of snow. Normally would be for the whole year in the Barrie area around about 260. So we clearly are 70%, maybe more snow than normal. And this is not a forecast. This is just based on 30 years of record, and not to kind of scare you, but if you look in 30 years, how much snow do we get from the middle of March through to the end where we don't see the last flake falls, which sometimes can May. But hey, if you look at that period based on 30 years, this is what I would tell you is the amount more snow to come without looking at the forecast. We still have about 30 centimeters of snow, and about 10 to 11% of our annual total is yet to fall. We've never gone through April without some snow. So, I mean, we know that not necessarily the shoveling, plowing, and pushing. I mean, hey, I as a rule, don't do any shoveling, plowing, and pushing from March on, because what nature giveth, it can also taketh away.
A lot of people still remember the ice storm around this time last year. Anything on your radar or in the models to suggest we might be in for another one of those?
Well, I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, those things are freezing rain, ice pellets are something that, my gosh, even when you're in it, approaching it, it's coming at you. You can't say how long or how much, what is the severity of the ice or the length of the ice. But boy, that event still stands out. I looked at some numbers recently, not just to remind myself of how the misery that we had, but it worked out last year with all of the extremes we had of weather in this country, and this is nationally. That was the most expensive weather event in 2025 in Canada, was that ice storm that occurred in Barrie, Orillia, from Penetanguishing right through to, I think, Lindsay and central Ontario. It was nearly $500 million of damage in terms of property losses. Now, we know that the damage is far more than that particular one. We know that property damage that collected by insurers represent maybe a third or a quarter of what the true damage is, because some people don't make a claim. They don't have insurance. Governments typically, their infrastructure, they don't have insurance on their large facilities. But it was really one of the granddaddy ones of them all. And it was just a weekend at the end of March last year. It tells you had no hint at all that was coming. And that is surely, we can get storms, 2 or 3 or 4 days away and give out information on it. But ice storms, it's almost as if the storm is knocking at your door, and you don't know whether you're going to get the rain, the ice pellets, the freezing rain, or a congealed mixture of all the above. In that one, boy, it was a lot of freezing rain, 30, 35 hours. Also, in terms of millimeters of freezing rain, 20, 30 millimeters of rain. It was one that was, and the thing is, Dan, that event, it changed the look for years. I mean, you don't replace those trees, those hurt trees or down trees, and they're hard to replace the landscape like you can with a snow or a rain event. But boy, that still stands out as one of the worst weather events in our history. That one.
All right, let's put winter behind us, even though I still might get some snow into April, but people scoff at me every year when I say there's still another snowstorm in April.
There's no rush to spring coming up. We see really over the next little while, we see rather kind of almost maple syrup kind of weather. And I say that because, a little melting during the day and freezing at night. So none of this where we're getting double-digit temperatures, either negative or positive. So it's sort of that transition kind of vanilla kind of weather, neither really, not totally extreme. It's more psychologically downer. You want it to come, and it's just taking its sweet time. So it's this. We got to go through the mud season and the flood season, kind of. So my sense is that what our models are telling us is that. Let's forget the rest of March. March is going to be, again, temperatures that might be like this week, a couple degrees warmer above freezing mark and a couple of degrees below the freezing mark. That kind of back and forth and up and down yo-yo kind of thing. Nothing. You just don't know what clothes to wear. I mean, is it spring jackets or is it Arctic parkas or winter parkas? And so it's really that kind of a transition that we're seeing from the rest of March and into April. Now, April is showing a little bit warming up. And one of the things that's interesting about April, if you look at the difference in what we call average temperature from, say, the middle of each month, the greatest difference, the greatest increase is from March to April. For typically from March to April, you get a warming of about 8 degrees. So what we say in March, if I said middle of March, like about right now, the average temperature, or say the average would be, say, 8 degrees, say a minus or minus 2 or minus 1.5, something like that. Well, in April, you can add, it's almost 7.6 degrees warmer than that. So what's average in April is significantly different than what is in, and that's that way for every month of the year, showing that tremendous change. So we see a change, and the reason for that is that we're seeing a lot more sunshine, daylight. We're now really to the point where the daylight and the nighttime temperature is time is the same, and then it's going to really take off with more daylight than nighttime. So it's hard for nature to cool things off with the darkness of the night into the sun. The sun, we're gaining about almost 3.5 minutes per day, and the angle of the sun is important too. We're gaining now. It's almost like in terms of the sun, it's almost about 40 degrees above the horizon, and so that sun coming in doesn't go through a lot of atmosphere. It comes directly on your skin, and so that's why it feels warm at this time of year if you get a sunny day. The models, though, say this. For April, May, and June, what are we saying? Seems to suggest that in the Barrie area and in Lake Simcoe area, it really is either normal to warmer than normal for April, May, and June. So again, not a rush, but it'll be some of those days where it does really warm up and we think, oh my gosh, summer is here. We're with spring and now we're in summer. Well, then it'll fall back a little bit. So my sense is this is what we're saying. We're saying that it looks like it's going to be normal to maybe favoring a little warmer than normal. So I think that's really the pattern over the next 3 months going forward. Now, I just give you a little teaser with summer. We're saying summer is going to be warmer than normal. I've looked at it, but hey, there's a lot of time to get there, and we can correct our models. We're not always right, and we'll have to wait and see. I am sure that when we get to summer, people are going to be reluctant to complain about the heat and humidity, given the kind of winter and slow spring that we've had.
David, always good chatting with you, and I'll look forward to 3 months from now meeting you on the waterfront to talk about summer.
Even if the ice is still in the bay, we're going to meet there. I don't like this on the phone business, so let's get to our favorite picnic bench there and talk at will about the weather.
I'll bring an umbrella just in case.
Oh, yes, you were a man of all seasons for sure.
Thank you, David.
Okay, great, Dan. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Barrie Food Bank's Spring to Action campaign is underway with more and more mouths to feed. It's hoping it can count again on the generosity of our community. Barrie 360's Ian McLennan gets some sobering stats from Food Bank Executive Director Karen Shue.
What is the campaign about, and how critical is it for the organization?
Well, the campaign Spring to Action is our annual call to the community to help us restock after the winter season. And, the holiday season was very generous, but it's spring and summer are traditionally our leanest months. And this year, the need hasn't slowed down. So the campaign goal, we're asking for $250,000 and 100,000 pounds of food. As at this point, we're about 20% way to that goal, but we're still 3 weeks away. And the reason it's so important, I can share with you some of our stats from February. We supported 7,436 food bank visits, and that's up 17% from last February. We're seeing, 38% of our clients are children. And so that should alarm all of us. We had 340 first-time visitors, and increasingly, we're seeing more and more seniors. Our seniors are growing at 35% over last year. And then lastly, we see probably about 20%, about 1 in 5 of our food bank clients actually have employment income. We're just seeing a steady increase in people who are employed, but they're employed part-time, no benefits, precarious employment. But these individuals are often coming to bridge kind of a short-term crisis rather than becoming long-term dependent.
With the increase in numbers, what's that a reflection of? What's the message you take away?
For us, it's seeing that wages are not really keeping up with the cost of living. So just think about, rising grocery prices, and now, rising gas prices up 20 cents a liter. So that's kind of number one. Two, cost of housing. More and more our clients are telling us that the cost of housing and rent is, eating up 50, 60, 70% of their available income. And so the only other there's no other where else for that money to come from than out of the grocery budget. And those are who are on fixed incomes and working families who are stretched thin. And we still have, the homelessness crisis. So food security is no longer a fringe issue. It's working families, it's seniors, it's people doing everything right, but still falling short.
What challenges does it present to the food bank in terms of what you can provide to people who need it, that need the service, and your costs too? I mean, there's a cost of living to get that food, even though a lot of it is donated. I'm just curious how you juggle what goes out the door, I guess.
Well, for us, the biggest challenge for us is we're running out of space. We're running out of physical space. So we're bursting at the seams. We don't have enough storage. We don't have enough parking. And so when our warehouse was purpose-built for us in 2011, it was never intended to support the kind of numbers that we're seeing. But we're adapting because people need us. We're also seeing, obviously, higher food purchasing costs are affecting us too. We spend about $100,000, $150,000 a month, but we're getting less for it than we used to. And it's also kind of putting the pressure on volunteers and staff. We've probably tripled our demand in the last couple of years. And so the scale of what we do today is very different than what we did, a few years ago. But we're adapting because people need us.
It's been asked before, Ontario Food Bank Association, Feed Ontario, what supports government can give, maybe not just to food banks, but to people who use the service. What is the lacking, do you see? What are the gaps?
So the gaps for me, definitely income related. And so we're optimistic because, we have the new groceries and essentials benefit that's coming this June, July. And for a single person, that reflects almost about $1,000. And for a couple with couple children, it's close to $2,000. So, that will go a long way. We also have, there's some funding that's been set aside in the local food infrastructure fund for the food banks. And even things like automatic tax filing for low-income Canadians can go a long way to helping, reduce the volumes of people needing the support of the food bank.
You would know firsthand that Barrie is a very generous community to help those who are struggling.
I can't overstate how remarkable it is when the rolling doors open up at the back of the food bank and a truck pulls up and unloads just a wealth of donations. And it seems like when we, at a staff meeting, we speak something into existence. For example, we're looking for external warehouse space and we're talking about it at the staff meeting. And lo and behold, don't we get an offer from a businessman around the corner who has space for us? So there's just something special about Barrie where our community steps up when we need it the most.
Food donations can be made at most grocery stores or dropped off at the food bank on Ann Street South. Cash donations can be made online at barriefoodbank.org. We are joined by Jeff Lehman, the former mayor of Barrie, now district chair of Muskoka, have been for a few years. Haven't talked to you for a while. Welcome back.
Thank you very much. It has been a little while. Lots going on as always, though.
Well, tell us, what's going on in that little fiefdom of yours?
Right. Well, Muskoka is a big place. Lots of people who are struggling like across this country to find housing. And so housing's been a top priority for district, trying to tackle our wait lists for subsidized housing, but make it easier to build more homes in the right kind of places. But we're always working on other stuff, whether it's garbage, protecting the environment, working on building up the local economy. And boy, that is important right now, too, with everything going on in the world.
How is the district getting through the struggles of late with the economy the way it is, oil prices, the uncertainty?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Muskoka tourism and construction are a big part of the economy. And we just had a really big moment on Friday. Air Canada has announced a new service from Muskoka Airport to Pearson, but also in reverse. You'll be able to get from Pearson to Muskoka Airport on a new service they call Landline. So that's a luxury coach, but it works just like a flight. You check in Muskoka with your bags, you get your boarding pass for your whole trip, and then it works in reverse. So people who are visiting Muskoka from around the world, the last leg of their trip on Air Canada will be a bus from Pearson to Muskoka, and from there you get to enjoy our part of the world. So we're trying to do things, whether it's through the airport, through our economic development department, to try and support that part of the Muskoka economy and make good things happen.
You were talking about housing, and you just opened a fancy new apartment up there that's going to be a help.
Well, I'd call it more modest. It is public housing, but I will tell you it's a beautiful building, and there's some special things about it. So yeah, this is 44 units in Bracebridge. The most expensive one is $1,100 a month, and some of them rent for as low as $400 a month.
Wow.
So this is housing with some rent geared to income, subsidized. But it's targeted at seniors, and seniors are a big part of our wait list for housing in Muskoka, so we wanted to help those folks with one-bedroom apartments particularly. The building's pretty special, though. It uses heat pump technology, solar panels on the roof, which means it didn't need natural gas, and that helped us save a lot of money. It's going to help the residents save a lot of money on their utility bills as well. And for those wondering how you get through a Muskoka winter with heat pumps, they have an extra stage that kicks in the winter to keep the apartments and the common areas warm. But really beautiful building and on time and on budget. We're really proud of this one. People have started to move in already right on schedule.
44 units doesn't seem like a lot,
No.
but I know you were quoted as saying it is a lot.
Well, in Muskoka, it moves the needle. I mean, this is a place where we do have about 400 households on the wait list. So yeah, it's only a start. We have projects lined up over the coming years to increase that number. But when you keep in mind that this country, we have seen very little investment in public housing since the 1990s. And we know the federal government and the provincial government are keen to reinvest in housing and help people find a place they can afford. And, particularly I think for seniors who've, they've worked their whole life, they've done everything right, but now they're just priced out of an overheated sort of housing situation with rents being so high. That's why we're targeting doing these apartment buildings. So we think it helps the people that need the help the most. and we're planning to do more of that.
Why is it so difficult to get the investors, to get the investment, to get these things going? Because we hear about the tremendous need, but nobody seems to be jumping up and down to get them done.
Yeah, well, we've been able to get some done, but we have had to provide incentives. There's no way around it that the math doesn't really math for the private sector to build rentals at these kind of low rental rates. There's no way around it. I mean, the interest rate climate is still elevated. Construction costs have risen dramatically. And so there's your answer. I think a lot of even affordable housing developers struggle to make the numbers work without some help from the government. You know, the good news is the federal government has started putting more money in. The district has been able to put money in. And when you start to stack some of that, we can do things where the private sector can build these buildings. We just need to provide a little bit of support to help make the math work.
Do you have organizations up there who are helping you do that? I know we've got 2 or 3 here in the Barrie area in Simcoe County. Do you have similar situations there?
We do, although I would tell you those organizations tell us about the challenges that they face too. We've got a great partnership right now with Habitat for Humanity to build in Gravenhurst. We have a second one that's just been announced in Bracebridge where the district's going to do a building and Habitat's going to do a building on the same site. So that's really efficient, you know, no land cost. It's public land that the town of Bracebridge is kicking in. And so you put these sort of partnerships together, right? And we do have tremendous local organizations that get a lot of support from the community. But even they face those same economic challenges trying to raise the money to build. And so that's where we come in and try and help.
You have, for the last year, been working on recycling and getting people in tune with what can go in the bag and what can't. And as a result of that, you introduced clear bags. So you're keeping a close eye. How's that going?
Well, we're just getting the first year results in, and it's been very, very successful. This was one of those things. I remember when we were introducing this, I said it during the meeting, you know, it's weird, but it works. And it's true. There's 4 or 5 million people already in Ontario that use clear bags to put their garbage out at the curb. We introduced it a year ago and at the same time expanded some of our green bin service. The clear bags alone have driven a reduction in garbage that's just been dramatic, 38% less garbage,
Whoa.
which translates to 330,000 less bags of garbage that we've had to throw into the landfill just because of the color of the bag. And, you know, there's a lot of theories on why this works. You know, some people say, oh, well, you're shaming people about putting out recycling and making sure they put the right stuff in. I'm not sure it's so much about the shame. I think what it is it makes people take a second look at what they're throwing in the garbage. Yeah, it's something that we automatically do. We have our habits, but it did make people, I think, stop and say, okay, what goes where? And we want to make it as convenient as possible for people to do that. But I really have to say thank you to the people of Muskoka because, you know, aside from the tremendous environmental benefit of throwing less stuff in the ground, this is going to save them, us, all of us in Muskoka, millions of dollars. So just in the first year alone, we believe we've extended the life of our landfill by 2 more years. What that translates into dollars is many, many millions of dollars avoided by not having to build a new landfill. And, you know, that kind of impact goes straight to everybody's tax bill, not just the tremendous benefit it offers for the environment.
People have often and are always and still are confused sometimes about what can be recycled, what can't, because can this kind of cup go in there? Can that kind of cup go in there? This plastic, that plastic. What's the best way for people to find out? Because now they're more conscious of it, obviously, because of the clear bag.
And also we've had changes in Ontario where recycling was uploaded to the province. And so that means there was a new provider and some changes. And we know there were bumps in that process for sure. But that provider, Circular Materials, has a great tool on their website that'll tell you what goes in what bin. So does the district. We have an app. So that's something that I often hear about. People say, well, my pizza slice container or boxes, which bin can that go in? You can just open up our app, put the item in, and it'll tell you where you should put it.
As for the rollout, how has it been there? I know here in Barrie and in Simcoe County, daily there are comments on social media and what's going on. I don't understand. I don't get it. How come it wasn't picked up? What's going on? Similar situation there, or not quite as bad?
I would say not quite as bad, but we did have a few places where there were problems, and that included recycling pickup at some of our transfer stations. I would say that the problems were largely corrected. It took some time, and that was frustrating for everybody, especially us who continue to get the calls, even though we're not running the service anymore. But a change that big, you can understand there being a few bumps, but I think there were some issues. And, in Muskoka, there's lots of different ways we pick up garbage because it's such a huge region with very different places. In the towns and the suburbs, it's just like here in Barrie, it's curbside pickup. In the more rural areas, it's often a transfer station where you drop your garbage off, or even bare bins at the end of your cottage road. And so, the new service provider, I think it took a little while to get used to some of those pieces of it. By and large, it's getting better. Still some work to do, but it's getting better.
Could have picked a better winter to start it.
Well,
too.
And lots of timing issues. The fact that the change happened right after Christmas, which meant that people had extra loads of stuff and a lot of different things that they weren't sure went where, and then it didn't get picked up, and why didn't it get picked up, and then it got blown all over. We hear the frustration, and I think with the provincial service, one of the challenges is we don't have local control over it anymore. And so, I hate that message to say, well, you got to call someone else. But unfortunately, it's true. What we are trying to do in the district is we do have some other services, like in the downtown areas that lost service. We're continuing to provide some of that. But it's been a challenge. There's no way around it. And we just thank everybody for bearing with it because it's worth doing. It doesn't just keep our community clean. It's far better for the environment. It's better for their wallet. And that's the piece that I think a lot of people don't really understand is like when you recycle more, when you use your green bin more, it helps keep your taxes down. And if we all work on that piece together, we're all going to benefit.
What have you heard? Because people often with recycling in particular say, well, it all gets thrown into the same place anyway.
Yeah.
Is there any truth to that?
No, of course not. No. I think what confuses people sometimes is there are trucks with separated containers on the same truck. So they'll pick up more than one piece. They'll pick up garbage in the green bin, but they are separate containers. And, if anybody sort of wants proof, we sell the compost, and I know the city of Barrie does the same thing. I believe lots of other municipalities do the same thing. And that compost is created by the organics, and you can see literally what comes out of people's green bins because we process it and turn it into garden food, and you can come get some. So that's one thing that, we had a very modest start to our organics program, but it has just taken off. And so for all those people interested in a little bit of compost, look us up.
Been a tough winter all around.
Yeah.
How's it been in the district, and how has everybody coped?
Yeah. I mean, we've had some pretty legendarily bad weather in the last few years. I think everybody remembers the snowstorm that pretty much shut down Gravenhurst 2 years ago. And then we had the ice storm, of course, last year that hit us and Simcoe County. We had another really rough December. No way around it. I'll give credit to the province of Ontario who've come up with some emergency funding for bad weather. I think the long-term picture that we're really starting to realize now is this is more common. There's no way around it. And the other thing that's more common is these swings like we're experiencing this week between rain and snow. And that beats the roads up. That can cause the ice conditions. And we got to be ready for that. So unfortunately, some of that means more winter control budgets being better prepared. But the other thing that you got to remember, too, in Muskoka is, those highways, Highway 11 and Highway 400 are just essential for moving people around, absolutely critical. And so the emergency diversion routes for those highways, when they do have to be closed, which is all too often this year, we're looking to upgrade those routes. And that's something that unfortunately is needed now more than ever, both to move goods and services around, get fuel into Muskoka's towns and communities, but also to give people an alternate way to get around when there's a closure.
All right, here's your chance to convince me, because I'm getting close to that retirement age. I'm not ready to do it yet.
I don't believe it.
I'm still having a lot of fun, so
Good.
It's not happening anytime soon.
All right, so am I.
But you're not as close as I am, my friend. convinced me that I should get my name on the waiting list of that building in Bracebridge.
Oh.
That I should move to Muskoka when I'm ready.
Oh, man. Well, that building in particular, aside from the fact that your utility bills are going to be much lower, that your rent obviously is subsidized. If we are able to offer you an apartment, at least to some degree, it's subsidized. It's a beautiful spot to live. I mean, it's nestled into the side of a hill, bit of Canadian Shield there, right at Taylor Road and Cedar Lane. Near the roundabout, so super convenient. You can walk across to the Power Center in Bracebridge. There's a Tim's across the street. But look, Muskoka is a wonderful, wonderful place to live. These are safe communities, beautiful communities, and particularly for people who really appreciate the outdoors. There's just nothing better, of course, than Muskoka in the summer. But I'll tell you, some of the best time in our part of the world is the fall. Just a beautiful time of year. There's tons of winter activities. And especially in the towns, they are alive 12 months of the year. I think a lot of people assume we roll up the sidewalks after Labor Day. Not true at all anymore. And so I encourage people to come up and visit, whether it's for the day or for longer. And certainly there's lots of people who choose to make their life there for good reasons.
All right. We'll compare notes in a few years.
All right.
I'm not ready yet, but we'll compare notes
Good stuff.
then. Thanks for dropping by. Always a pleasure to talk with you.
Of course. Thanks, Dan.
All right. Rock 95 afternoon host Macaulay is at it again, doing chores for charity, doing the jobs that need to be done for those who don't want to do them. He took a break this week to chat with our Julius Hearn about his efforts.
Okay, Macaulay, this is a big month for you because it's an event that, or I guess a trend that you've had over the last couple of years, chores for charity. This one's big for you in March. Used to be called March Madness for Kids, but for those who don't know, when did this start and how did it start?
I think this may be the 10th year, but because I'm not too sure, I didn't go big with like any anniversary branding, but I started this before I was with Rock 95, and it's just built and gotten bigger and bigger every year. And it was called March Madness because it's madness to work out 31 days straight without taking a day off or rest, but it doesn't really tell anyone what it is exactly. Chores for Charity is pretty clear. I will work for a good cause. And so 10 years in, a lofty goal of $10,000 this year for Easter Seals.
And, Easter Seals, they do a lot for, kids with disabilities. And why did you pick Easter Seals?
Well, I'm involved with Easter Seals because I host their annual Dancing with the Easter Seal Stars event. And so I've gotten to meet these ambassadors, these kids that are so full of life and energy despite their physical limitations, whether it be a wheelchair, whether it be MS diagnosis, whatever the case may be. They're still so positive and full of life that it's impossible not to be impacted by them. Because I try to spread the love and reach as many youth charities as possible, switching it up every year, coming back to Easter Seals just because of my work with them was a no-brainer.
It's about halfway through the month. I'm sure there's been some exciting ones I've seen on social media. A lot of what you've done so far is calisthenics, or I see you went to a kickboxing gym where people will literally have you go out and do manual labor with them. So far this year, what have been some of the more memorable chores you've done so far?
Well, for the first time, I had to do tree trimming, which I didn't know what I was getting into. I didn't know what it meant exactly, but this gentleman, Walt, wanted me to come to his property and help trim from shoulder height down so that he could maneuver his property and mow the lawn and not have to worry about branches. So I trimmed all the trees in his front area, and it was my first time ever trimming a tree. I didn't know what the process was. I didn't even know what the right tools were, and so I got a real great shoulder workout cutting through these limbs with these shears, and then on the really bigger branches, I had to use the saw and giver, and so that was an educational experience as much as a workout. But on the other hand, the team at Black Lotus Kickboxing in Aurelia blew my mind with their camaraderie and their community sense, and like how they all came together and they all dug deep and they all donated, as well as Nick from Black Lotus. And so learning what I thought was, I do a cardio kickboxing exercise every so often. I should be okay. And then learning proper technique was a humbling experience. Like, I got my butt kicked and also learned I was not throwing punches or kicks properly.
You mentioned this is about 10 years now to this point. What's been your favorite chore, or even the most memorable chore for the worst reasons in the entire span that you've been doing this?
Well, I want to give a shout out to the Wasaga Beach Fire Department because they had me come out one year and train like a firefighter, do their on-site training, which meant gear up in all the firefighter gear, go up and down the stairs, haul hoses, pull a hose like up a line, which just killed my shoulders and my forearms, I remember. Then I had to go up on the lift in the fire truck. So it was an adventure and it was physically demanding, and I felt very proud of myself. Felt like a man because I like trained like a firefighter. And so I would encourage any firefighters in the listening area to recreate that because it's been a few years. That's the beauty of this challenge is more businesses should really be stepping up because it's a marketing opportunity. Like it's a win-win. You donate to charity. You get to create hilarious or entertaining educational content, but you get to market your business. I will come to your business and do anything, whether it's marketing your business or just getting a sweat on at your business. You get a commercial on Rock 95 on all our socials and on the website. You get to showcase your business while helping kids.
Were there any that's been memorable, for maybe not the best reasons that you just really didn't like? Or
Well, no one ever loves picking up dog doo-doo, and I've had to do that a few times. This most recent time this year, the weather was the worst. It was pouring rain, and I was slopping through some mud, trying to differentiate between nature's brown and Fido's brown, and that was gross. It was challenging and messy, and if the weather was better, maybe it wouldn't have been so bad, but not a fun time.
so towards the end of March, about halfway through the month, as I said, what do you got planned so far to kind of get us through March?
Well, I know that I will be going to Fox's Bakery. They've been an epic supporter the last few years. I'm not sure what they're doing to put me to work, but usually it's putting me in the assembly line, putting my skills to the test in some way. And they usually come through with a big donation. I've got the folks behind Irvine Carpet One having me come out. McNeil Construction is having me come out. And another big supporter the last few years has been Angel Group Roofing. So there's some businesses, but lots of other opportunity for more businesses. But the Rock 95 listeners have really been the backbone of this, and getting to meet so many people coming out and just doing the chores they don't want to do, like collecting sap up at 6 Mile Lake or trimming those trees or just lugging stuff. It's been cool to meet the people, see them in their environment, their neck of the woods, spend a day in the life with these guys that have been so supportive of us. So I know that some listeners have some ideas that they had to pull the trigger on to have me come up, whether it's going back up north and lugging firewood. There's some ideas being batted around, but lots of dates that aren't filled in yet that could use your challenge.
So let's say a listener is on the fence. They want to get involved. What plans or what tasks for you would be good, or what's something that could be off limits?
Well, the sky's the limit, really. And it's your imagination. You might have a to-do list of chores or physical tasks that need doing you don't want to do. Boom, that's perfect. It's too easy to get me to do it. If you're a business and you're like, how does physical fitness or things work out here? It could be as simple as I come and hang out with your team who are working in the cubicles, and I'm doing burpees every phone call made. I'm doing jumping jacks at the front. Like, we can make anything happen. So if you're on the fence, it's a matter of what would entertain me to make McCully do. He hates planks. He hates burpees. He can don an outfit. You can get creative in that way, too. Like, put me in a costume. Rachel, host of the All Request Friday Night, is paying me, making a donation to wear my wrestling gear and run laps of the building. Just simple, silly, but just if that triggers an idea in your head, literally the sky's the limit.
Yeah, you've done that with the Barrie Colts. I've seen you on the concourse there a couple of years in a row. I'm sure that one's a fan favorite for sure. Finally, for those who do want to get involved, how can they reach out? How can they support?
It's as simple as rock95.com. There are 2 forms you can fill out. There's a form to challenge me, and they come right to me, and I'll see what you have in mind. We'll work it out. We'll get it done, and you can donate right there at rock95.com. So if you just want to support the cause because you're seeing what I'm doing for everybody else and you're feeling inspired, go ahead and do that because every dollar counts. But if you want to make a challenge and have a chore happen, we will make a video to document that I've done it, and I will come to wherever you are, and we'll do something fun. So rock95.com, challenge, donate, Make me move.
Well, it's been great to see you on the Rock 95 socials, and I'm looking forward to what we have at the end of the month. Macaulay, thank you so much for dropping in.
Thank you for the opportunity. It's as simple as, if you're a fan of the show, help me support kids. If you're not a fan of the show and you don't like Macaulay, all the more reason to support and make me do something hard.
Real people, real places, real stories returns this month to the Barrie Film Festival. Porridge, animals displaced by the war in Ukraine, Elvis. Here again is Ian McLennan with Film Festival director Claudine Benoit and Elvis Uber fan Wendy King.
So it's real stories, Barrie Film Festival. What's different from the spring to the fall? Because I know some people have been wondering.
Well, Real Stories it's all films that are true stories. So they're either, dramatizations of true stories or documentaries.
Yeah, and are they specific to that? Like, how do you pick the movies that are screened?
Well, there's a lot of viewing and a lot of discussion. With my fellow programmers, we all love movies, so we have lots to talk about and lots of viewing going on, as I said. And we look for films that are a variety of genres and stories. Music documentaries often do very, very well. We want people to learn or experience something and learn about people and their lives that they may not otherwise know.
Now, we can't touch on all of them, obviously, in this interview, but it seems to be a theme, too. You got music with Elvis Presley in concert, but then there's a lot of themes which are relevant to today with regards to war or fallout from it. Example being Checkpoint Zoo, also Holding Liat as well. Tell me about Checkpoint Zoo, because we were discussing that that's the fallout from the war in Ukraine, but impacting, yes, people, but also animals.
That's right. So Checkpoint Zoo, it was actually suggested to me by someone I know that saw it at another festival. It's a riveting film because it's true. You often you think about the people impacted by war, and in this case, it's the invasion of Ukraine. You often don't think about what happens to the animals, and in this case, it's a zoo that's close to the border of Russia, and it's about these brave people that want to save the animals.
And then you've got, I would think it would be a comedy, but obviously it might be dead serious when it comes to the Golden Spurtle, the World Porridge Championship in the Scottish Highlands. What's that all about?
It's really about a community. It's talk about a competition that is conflict-free. It's just a beautiful story about people and the people that make the competition happen, and then also the competitors. And after I saw this film, I happened to be in the bulk barn and saw Scottish oats, and I'm like, I got to make some porridge, which brings me back to my childhood. So it's just a lovely story about people, and we're happy to bring it to Barrie.
How did you land epic Elvis Presley in concert? It's all over the internet. How did you score that one?
Well, it just asked, to be honest.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can get films and sometimes you can't. And, the distributor said, yes, it will be playing in Barrie. And so, through a friend of mine, I was introduced to Wendy King, and, my friend John Arruda just knew that Wendy would be a wonderful speaker on this topic because she's like a super fan of Elvis Presley.
And Wendy will be speaking after the movie. You know just about everything there is to know about Elvis Presley. You've interviewed his family. You followed his life from day one in terms of, how you became interested. Saying just about everything about Elvis until you walked into this movie, what did you learn? Because you told me off the air that you did learn lots more.
Right. Well, as fans, we knew there was lost footage because it's not a movie, really. It's a documentary based on two of Elvis's documentaries, Elvis on tour in 72 and Elvis when he went to Vegas in 1970. So all the footage that didn't go into those documentaries way back when, we knew was hiding somewhere. Well, it was hiding in a salt mine in Kansas City. So the best thing to come out of a salt mine besides salt was this footage. So we've maybe have seen parts of it You maybe saw a smidgen of him walking on stage. This is from, dressing room to stage, or a lot of rehearsal footage, which is so much fun to see.
Putting those concerts together and the work that went into it.
Exactly. And seeing how everybody worked together as an ensemble, as a fan, and I was a young fan at that time, I didn't even know he had a band. I was so fixated on him. But you see how they're all working together and how he is really the conductor, producer. He's got it all under control, but in the nicest of possible ways.
And it's his voice, Elvis's voice throughout the whole movie too, right?
That's very cool because, he didn't do a lot of interviews.
Right.
And he didn't talk a lot. He wasn't a big speech giver. But what they found just works perfectly to tell what he needed to tell.
You saw Elvis in concert in Detroit, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
From what you know now, seeing how Elvis put his show together, does that change anything from what you saw at Cobo Hall? Or
just more impressed, I think.
Yeah.
More getting more out of it, going like, oh my gosh, like all the thought that goes into this, the fact that he picked every song, it wasn't somebody doing it for him. He's no one-trick pony. This boy was music from like the tips of his toes to the top of his head.
So there's stuff always being unearthed, so to speak, about Elvis Presley, and it's generation after generation. What struck you the most, though, about the movie? You've talked about it, but what really stands out for you? You walked away and went, I didn't know that.
I expected to feel sad because, he's gone, but I smiled or laughed through the whole movie because he's just having fun. And you know how much he loved what he was doing. And as a fan, that made me just love him more.
And Claudine, with Real Stories, just year after year, what makes this so successful? I mean, we hear so much, people aren't going to the movies. You got Netflix, you got other options. What is it about the theater, that brings people together? It's still important.
I think experiencing films together is imperative. And these films strike a lot of conversations, and I love seeing that. I love people milling around in the lobby talking about a film that they've seen, or telling me what they think, right? I mean, this is a festival for people with curious minds, and, we hope that we deliver.
And you've got Wendy King speaking after the movie, Elvis Presley in concert, but you've also got Allison Reed, who directed The Art of Adventure, the epic voyage of Robert Bateman and Bristol Foster. What's that about?
It's it's about the two of them and their lasting friendship. I mean, they're in their 90s now, but there's footage that they shot in 1957 and 1958 of this global trek that they took, and it's wonderful. It's a time capsule. It's where they really demonstrated their love for nature, and it kind of gave them the direction that they've taken in their lives. And it's so amazing. And Allison Reed, she's been to Barrie before with her film, The Woman Who Loves Giraffes, about Dr. Anne Innes-Degg. And so it's going to be wonderful to have her back and to hear the story behind the story.
It's got quite a mix. You've got that movie, which very focused on the environment. You've got obviously Elvis and music, Checkpoint Zoo, Holding Leon, War, Gaza, as well as the October 7th attack, as well as Ukraine, and then some light stuff with The Porridge, Golden Spurtle, but Toe. Which kind of, when I was reading it, a broken system, homelessness, a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean that it's a beautiful little indie film starring Rose Byrne, and I think it's just really shows here's someone that's living in their car and their car gets stolen, and just what happens to her and how the system lets her down and doesn't give her what she needs to survive, and it's just a really good story. Small little film that we're happy to show. And I mean, it's real life, right? You can't write this stuff. And, as they say, fact is stranger than fiction. It's a film that we just felt compelled to share.
And if people want more information?
Well, Real Stories, you can find the information on our website, barriefilmfestival.ca. Tickets are only $12. So it's a great experience. Plus, you get these wonderful people coming and talking about the films. Yeah, it's unique and wonderful. We hope to see you there.
Joined now by Jamie Grant of the Alzheimer's Society of Simcoe County. Welcome back to the program. Been a while.
It's been a few minutes. I'm sure you missed me, though.
Oh, I did. Not as much as the people you're going to help are going to miss you if you ever stop doing what you're doing. Let's put it that way. You have a big event coming up called
sure
Soups On. You're going to tell us about that because apparently you're getting a lot of questions about it.
I sure am.
Lay it out for us. What's happening with this Soups On?
Okay, well, the biggest question I'm getting is, what is Soups On? And, well, it's a community soup tasting fundraiser that we're holding for the Alzheimer's Society of Simcoe County. We have several local businesses that are donating 35 liters of their very best soup into what is essentially a contest. So we're hosting this contest, and the invitation is going out to all of you to come out and sample their soups and cast your vote for Simcoe County's best soup.
And do you have any idea what kinds of soups at this point, or is that a secret until the day?
Well, it appears that there is quite the competition happening between the local businesses that are donating. So there are categories. We do have the creamiest soup, the heartiest soup, and the best vegetarian soup. Yes, as voted by our judges for what they wanted to see come out this time.
All right. And this is all to raise money for the Alzheimer's Society and all the work that you're doing, which is very, very important because this is becoming a bigger and bigger issue as we go along.
Unfortunately, it is. It matters because we currently have 11,500 people right here in our community that are impacted by dementia right now. Like that is right now. That is the baseline. And I really believe that that number is underreported due to the stigma attached to that number. So.
Yeah, because a lot of people don't want to admit to it initially, and families try to deal with it on their own, and it's just too big. I know it's been in my family, and I've seen what it does to people and how others react to it, which is why your work is so very important.
We absolutely are, and we are spreading that awareness that this is a disease. This is not a normal part of aging. This is not something that just happens. It's just like any other ailment that you would have in your life, and it's not your fault. It's but getting help early on is the best way to go for sure.
So you're having the Soups On, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. You're raising money. What kinds of things are you going to be able to do with that influx of cash?
Well, hopefully there'll be an influx of cash, and with that, we will hopefully get some of those people that are waiting on wait lists. So the majority of our people that we help through the Alzheimer's Society, all of our services are free. We have a bunch of people that are sitting on wait lists that we would like to get off of the wait list. Yeah. The wait lists include things like programs, education, support, one-on-one support, caregiver programs, all of those things. So when you donate to your local Alzheimer's Society, and in our case, that's Simcoe County, the funds actually stay locally. They don't go to Ontario or Canada-wide. They stay right here close to home.
Do you have a target in terms of how much you want to raise through this, or you'll take whatever you get, obviously?
I don't think there was ever a target. We really wanted this to be a community event and just have everyone come out and spread that awareness. So the money, although it's very important to get those people off a wait list, it's even more important for people to come out and remove that stigma. So.
All right, you've got soups coming in from a lot of different businesses, I guess. Can you name those, or are you keeping that a secret?
Certainly name a few that are getting quite competitive and are doing so on social media. Some of the lead runners of people that are coming out are State and Main, Kennedy's, Cravings, Poppy's, the Cove Cafe, Aspira Waterford, and the Ladies Auxiliary, and I wish them all the very best of luck.
Wow, and when you say things are getting competitive, that means soup's going to be on.
Absolutely. I do not think that I would want to be a judge in this particular one, just because I think it's going to be very difficult to decide between all of these very talented spaces.
All right, so those businesses are involved. How do everybody else get involved?
Well, they can start by coming out and supporting the event. So purchasing a ticket. Tickets are $25 at the door. We don't have pre-registration for this one. You just show up. It is at the Barrie Legion, so there will be plenty of parking available. come on out, try these soups, and cast your vote to see who is the best soup.
And very important, what's the date and the time?
The date will be Sunday, March the 29th, and we will open the doors at 11 a.m. The contest runs until 2 p.m., with judging being at 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Bring your taste buds.
Absolutely. Come hungry.
I'm hungry because you're going to be sampling them all, aren't you?
I ordered 1,800 sampling bowls. I do not want to be eating all this soup on my own. So please join me.
So that's coming up in a matter of days. And I think I read somewhere you've got another event coming up at the end of May. Do you want to talk about that at this point?
I would love to talk about
Just
that.
to get people thinking about that as well.
We certainly do. The Alzheimer's Society has been operating in this area for 40 years now. And as many of you are aware, we host a huge fundraiser, which is called the Walk for Alzheimer's. We are very excited to announce that we'll be having our first walk, first of 3 that is, on May 31st. And that is happening at Springwater Provincial Park, same as last year. Our opening there will be at 10 a.m. You can register online for that, and we really hope to see you there.
All right, so that's happening. People can collect pledges and do that walk, and more information at your website, I presume.
Absolutely. They can find out all of those things on our website at www.alzheimer.ca/Simcoe County, as well as our social media, which I think most people are on these days.
I think so, yeah. All right, one last time, when and where the soup's on.
When and where? Please join us on Sunday, March the 29th. 11 a.m. is the start. We go until 2 p.m. This will happen at the Barrie Legion. If anyone needs that address, kindly look us up on the website.
All right. Good luck with that. Enjoy the soup. And thanks for all the
much.
wonderful work you do.
I really appreciate your time. Thanks for having me here today.
It is the final week of the regular season for the OHL and for the Barrie Colts. Still a chance they could finish first in the Eastern Conference. Let's get the goods from Colts analyst Gene Pereira. He's with Julius Hurd.
Okay, Gene, it's been a while for us, almost a month, but we're back. Another update on the Barrie Colts, and only 3 games left in the regular season. We're recording this ahead of a Wednesday night game against the Kingston Frontenacs. But it's essentially looking like it's going to be a Barrie-Niagara playoff series, the 2-7 matchup in the OHL's Eastern Conference, because while Barrie's still, as of this moment, in contention for the number 1 spot in the conference, Brantford's almost pretty much got it locked up. So for you, 3 games remaining for this team, what is their focus going to be ahead of the playoff games, which are going to be all important?
Yeah, and talking to Dylan Smoskowitz, obviously I think they're locked into pretty much where they are. I mean, for them to catch Brantford would have to lose their final game, as Barrie would have to win out. And I don't see Brantford, doing that. So I think they're locked into what appears to be a Niagara series. And, for these final 3 games, in talking to Dylan Smoskowitz, he wants them to focus on just their play and, being consistent, being solid defensively, and at times they strayed away from that. And it's difficult. I mean, for the players, they know they're excited. The playoffs are around the corner. There's nowhere really to move in the standings. But what you want to do is, don't get into those bad habits when the playoffs are around the corner. For Dylan Smoskowitz, he doesn't believe it's a switch where you can turn it on and off. And I think that's what he wants to see as they wrap up the schedule. And, he says if they play that solid so-called Barrie Colts brand of hockey, they'll be just fine heading into the playoffs.
We discussed a bit of this off air, what a Niagara-Barrie playoff series might mean. Obviously, you look at, there's a couple guys on that roster, former Colts. Are they going to have a chip on their shoulder against Barrie, or do you see that potential series going pretty easily for Barrie?
Look, I think anytime for Riley Patterson, Grayson Tiller, there's no doubt. I mean, they look at the standings. They'd love to knock off their old team. And, I see Barrie as just right now, they've been fairly consistent all year. I don't see this team, I wouldn't be surprised if it was a sweep. But again, there's going to have to be respect there. Niagara made a couple of moves at the deadline themselves and shoring up the defense. I think Chromiak from Kitchener and Wang from Oshawa. And, it's a team that can still put the puck in the net. They got some offense. So it's a team Barrie's going to have to be careful again. And, In this league, you look at the standings, you tend to think, okay, something's going to happen. But look, you got to put the foot down on the pedal each and every night. These teams can win each and every night. And, Niagara's proved at times tough, but I just see the Colts' depth being a real major factor in this series and their consistency. And there's no doubt they're a heavy favorite going into that series.
What's going to be the biggest storyline for the Colts when Game 1 happens, when Game 1 starts? What's going to be the big story on this team after the regular season finishes up?
I think when you look at it, I think Grayson Tiller and Riley Patterson, especially Riley Patterson, has had a fantastic year there in Niagara, one of the top scorers in the Ontario Hockey League, a former Barrie Colt, and a player that wanted out and ends up in Niagara, goes on, signs with the Vancouver Canucks and had a big year. So it'll certainly be a focus in that series, someone that the Colts will have to shut down. That'll be a major focus. But look, these two Central Division rivals, they're familiar with one another. And, I think that, the storylines, will center mostly around Tiller and Patterson being former Colts, but I think a lot of it will get right back to hockey. And for the Colts, is again playing that that big heavy style that has made them successful.
Yeah, speaking about the big heavy style, obviously we got a lot to catch up on since last time we talked, and I think a lot of that is Keyshawn Aitchison because he's had a big month of February. First off, we'll talk about the moment that he got the franchise point record. And it was a power play goal against Brantford. Obviously, the crowd goes crazy. Big celebration at center ice. What did that moment mean for Keyshawn?
I think, you could see it talking to him after. It meant a lot, and especially the fact that he had come in as a rookie and played with Brant Clark. He said he learned a lot from watching Clark, who's now with the Los Angeles Kings. And I think for a player, you come in and first, you just, you want to get in the lineup every night. You want to have an impact. And Keyshawn has just obviously done that throughout his career in Barrie. And, he's a special player. I always go back to what the NHL scouts, just told me. He kept calling him a Swiss Army knife just because he can do so many things. And here's a player that, I don't think without a doubt is the best open ice hitter in franchise history. He could play physical. He could play defense. He's a big member of Team Canada at the World Junior Hockey Championships. And, then offensively, he's armed with that big-time slap shot to the point the Colts love set him up for the one-timers. This is a guy that he's just so fun to watch. And he's, and above that, Keyshawn's a great kid. And, I've been really impressed about how he's taken that letter on his jersey, a co-captain this year with Cole Baudouin, and just how he's taken that seriously. And, for Keyshawn, I mean, it's great seeing him kind of rack up all these franchise things. But, these are two kids, what makes them special, Cole Baudouin as well, is that, they're just so competitive and, they want to win and that's what matters. And I think it rubs off on their teammates. But watching Keyshawn just, the goals record, the points record, just continue to rack up. And, it's just been a whirlwind for him and being drafted, playing at the World Junior Hockey Championships. And, what's impressive is, like I said, you think, okay, you take a sigh, but this is a kid that wants to win and he continues to just push forward.
You mentioned Cole Baudouin there, along with Aitchison. It was a good way to segue into the coaches poll, which also came out earlier this week. Both those guys were mentioned. 5 different categories for Cole Baudouin. Meanwhile, for Keyshawn Aitchison, 4 different categories, and very highly touted players in the OHL, and very much different categories. I think for Cole Baudouin, I think the biggest one, hardest worker. I think you and I could both agree that the coaches got it right in there, especially best on faceoffs as well. Smartest player for Aitchison, best shot, hardest shot, best body checker, best offensive defenseman. Did the coaches get it wrong at all? Are they 100% right?
No, I think they're paying on. I mean, you watch these guys, and obviously for Cole Baudouin, I mean, you see him motor up and down that ice, and It's just at both ends. And right from day one in his junior career, you could always see that. And he's become one of the top scorers in the Ontario Hockey League. And, look, I mean, night in and night out, he's arguably the Colts' best player. And, it's that consistency that you see from him every night. And, I mean, it's such a fine example for young players who kind of see that. And Cole's, he's added that intensity this year. He was disappointed that he didn't make Utah. It's kind of, it's no surprise normally that players his age and experience get sent back. But for Cole, he kind of had that chip on his shoulder, and all he did was just dominate this year. And look, when the Red Tilson voting comes out, he's going to be a name that's right up there for that. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up walking away with that. But it's impressive the different categories that these guys miss. Very different, for Cole Bowler. Then Keyshawn Aitchison, that hardest shot, and the big one-timers, the physicality, the best body checker. It just really tells you how they both impact the game in so many ways.
There was a moment since we last talked in Windsor with Keyshawn Aitchison and Liam Greentree. Right at the end of that game, Aitchison brings down Greentree. This was very much a viral moment. I had a lot of friends ask me about this specific incident because they saw, a couple angles, obviously the broadcast, and, some fans in the stands had cameras. How did Aitchison avoid a suspension on that?
Yeah, look, I mean, it was just, I think the league recognizes, and I think officials recognize that it's a heated moment. I mean, I think it was an intense game. Obviously, there are two teams that are considered contenders for the OHL championship, and it was a game too. I think it was more parts with frustration on Barrie's side. That first period, I thought they played really well, but the second period, they just, to be honest with you, I thought it was Barrie's worst performance in the second and third period. Pretty much definitely since the start of the season. And I think that frustration's caught up, but look, he rode Greentree into the boards behind the net, and I think it's just frustration caught up with Keyshawn Aitchison. But I think he's fortunate too that there wasn't anything further.
Yeah, and that was the game that ended the Colts' season-long win streak that was well over 10 games. One more thing on Aitchison, because you had a piece this morning as we're talking. Aitchison signed his entry-level contract with the New York Islanders yesterday. For those who don't quite understand, what does that mean for him and for the Colts moving forward this year?
Well, I think, obviously he'll finish out the year in Barrie. I think you'll see him next year either at the NHL level or at the American Hockey League level. And I don't think it's any surprise that Keyshawn Aitchison's junior career is over here. But, for him, it's obviously peace of mind and getting that done. I think that's always on the player's mind. But also as well here, depending, the Colts are expected to go on a long run. But he could go to the AHL depending on what Bridgeport does, how long they go in the playoffs. As soon as the Barrie Colts season is over, he could join Bridgeport this season.
All right, a couple more other things for the Colts ahead of the playoffs. Obviously, Dylan Smoskowitz, he got the wins record in the OHL for most by a first-year head coach. I think it's really impressive the way he's galvanized this group in his first year. What have you noticed about Dylan this year, especially in the second half where the team was really on fire? You couldn't lose back-to-back games. That has really brought this team together ahead of the playoffs.
It's just been an impressive run for a first-year coach. And, anybody that's been around Dylan, I mean, he's just such a positive guy. And I think it rubs off on his team. And, look, I mean, to a man, I think the players love him, and you can see it. And, I think a big part of it is that, him and that young coaching staff, whatever they say, the players trust him and know that he's going to carry out. He's going to hold on to his word with that. And, they just love his positivity and his focus. And, I think that style too of, I mean, at times you tend to look ahead. Okay, we're 2 points behind this team in the standings, but Dylan has always had that that model, win the day. It's been right from the day one, and you think about it, and it's clearly focused. He's helped players focus on just what's exactly ahead of them and not kind of what's down the road. And I think it's really helped this team a lot in the success. I mean, this coaching staff, led by Dylan Smosquitz, I mean, they're a big part of the success this year. And it's just great to see. For anyone that knows Dylan, he's a first-class person, and it's hard not to cheer for a guy like that and wish him well.
Then on goaltending, obviously that's always, for any team, that's going to be a huge point of interest ahead of the postseason. Arvin Jasbal was fantastic. He had a 14-game win streak that recently ended. And Ben Hrebeck, he's missed a couple games, but again, Jasbal stepped in behind him very nicely. This is arguably maybe the best tandem in the OHL. Is there any concern with Hrebeck's physical condition heading into the playoffs?
No, I think he's going to be just fine. From what I understand, the Colts told me that they have the luxury of resting him a bit here. And, and then when you got Arvin Jaswal playing as well, look, I mean, usually when you have a backup situation with a younger goaltender, it's a little bit of a step down. He's going to see teams that aren't up there in the standings and give the starter a break. But that hasn't been the case with Jaswal. He's just been outstanding. His numbers speak volumes of just how good he's been. And, it's a nice luxury for the Colts knowing that. But, talking to Dylan Smosquitz, there's no doubt that Ben Hrebeck is the number one goaltender, and I expect him to see him carrying the load big time in the playoffs here.
And another piece, Evan Passmore, he's missed a couple games. Is there any update on his injury?
Yeah, that was fortunate. He took a slap shot last Saturday in the game against Sudbury off his right hand. And, you could see instantly that he was having some issues with it, kind of trying to shake it off as the play continues. He left the game. And, fortunately for the Barrie Colts, imaging, they found negative. And, actually Dylan said that he wanted to play right away, but, they arrested him against the Oshawa Generals. And there's that luxury now that you have your spot, that you don't have to force guys in, and so he should be good to go for the rest of the regular season and the playoffs. But a real fortunate break for the Barrie Colts there. What would have been a devastating loss for one of the top defensive defensemen in the Ontario Hockey League.
Well, I think Colts Nation's really getting excited for this playoff run, and could be, again, looking like another Barrie Niagara first-round matchup for the second straight year. Gene, once again, I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, it's familiar. I mean, those sold-out rinks is great to see. Great to see the city of Barrie get behind them, and it should be a fun run here.
And that's our program for this week. Thanks to Ian and Julius for their input, to Logan for his technical expertise, and to you for listening. If you like what you've heard, please subscribe to What Barrie's Talking About. You can also keep up with What Barrie's Talking About on Blue Sky and X at Barrie360, on our website, Barrie360.com, and there's our daily Kickstart podcasts available from any streaming service and on our website. I'm Dan Blakely. Hope you'll join us again next week.